Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming in. I think we're still got some folks coming in.
Okay.
Let's see. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started on our second breakout session. Again, this is in the cybersecurity track, so you're in the right place. We've got Ken with Ariaka today, and he'll be taking us through some GenAI conversations, along with some, I'm sure, some sassy conversations as well.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Great to see you. Enjoying the day so far. Good learning, good fun. All right, well, first I want to put a disclaimer on this. I am a GenAI enthusiast, okay? I love my ChatGPT. In fact, my team jokes because they said, did you get that from your friend? Because I've trained a GPT on all of our messaging and positioning and business strategy at Ariaka, and it's incredible at generating content. In fact, I'm running an experiment right now that I'll show you at the end. How many of you have ever created a GPT or a custom AI agent? Pretty cool, huh? I can't tell anymore if it's me or the AI. It's pretty scary, and I love it. But I'm also petrified, right? And this is AI. You love it and you're scared to death. And in fact, as is a conference like this, right, you have to send in your slides ahead of time, right? And I'm on the airplane yesterday coming in from Santa Clara reading this article. I'm like, oh, shoot, I want that in my presentation. And then I read another one this morning. I'm like, oh, shoot, I want that in my presentation. I mean, this thing is moving so fast. And I think we don't even understand adoption. We barely understand value realization. And we certainly don't understand the networking and security implications very well of this technology. And I'm going to talk about those three things. How is the enterprise adopting GenAI, and how can we expect that adoption to change? What kind of value does each stage of that adoption drive? And then what kind of risk and performance problems can that create? But I wanted to start by what I didn't get to add into my presentation, so I'm going to read you from the Wall Street Journal today, or yesterday, I don't even remember. Anyone see this article? A Disney worker downloaded an AI tool. It led to a hack that ruined his life. Okay, from the article, sinister software. I have to zoom in a little bit to read this with my old eyes. Van Andel's digital unraveling began last February when he downloaded free software from the popular code sharing site GitHub. You get it from Git and you get got. Be careful. While trying out some new artificial intelligence technology on his home computer, the software helped him create AI images from text prompts. We've all probably done that, right? This is the problem with using your phone in a presentation. It rings. It continues. It worked. Yay. But the AI assistant was actually malware that gave the hacker behind it access to his computer and his entire digital life. Okay, it broke into one password. It stole every password he had in his corporate accounts. It's a horror story, right? So there's a lot of risk here. So how do we think about adoption and risk in the AI world? So I'll give you my personal story of my friend and I, ChatGPT, the unified SASE as a service advisor that I built. In 1 hour, I took a presentation that I had built about the secure networking journey. And I had spent probably 8 to 10 hours on that presentation. I mean, a high investment piece of original content, right? And I put it into ChatGPT that had already been trained on the rest of our content. And I said, please create a blog series for me, okay, on this topic. Here are the 5 blogs that I would like to write. And I knew they matched the outline of the content, right? You can't just be a dummy when you prompt these things if you want good stuff out of it. You have to be smart about how you prompt it. Well, in an hour, I had 5,000 words, and they were good, okay? But here's the thing. That 5,000 words probably would have taken me 10 to 12 hours to write if I did it on my own. And I still had to revise and edit it and look for hallucinations and make sure the content was on message and all that stuff. But you know, within 2 hours, I had a series of 5 blogs, over 5,000 words long. Now, like I said, that probably would have taken me 10 hours to write. However, in reality, I would have never written it because I would have never gotten 10 hours to spend on that blog series. It just never would have happened. I might have gotten one done. Knowing me, I would have got the half of the second one done, and I never got the rest of them done. So in some ways, the ROI of that was infinite. That content's up on our website. It's generating marketing collateral, blah, 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 right? I mean, this is insane to me. And this is just one small example, right, of the kind of productivity gains that get me so excited about ChatGPT and about GenAI in general. So I've done a lot of thinking and talked to a lot of customers about how are you thinking about GenAI adoption. And a lot of times I get any blank stares. Do any of you have a model for thinking about GenAI adoption in your organization? I'm just curious. What's that model look like? Do you want to describe it a little bit?
Around how each department and people in the department actually utilized AI currently.
Yeah. And did it think about how they do it going forward, what that might look like?
Yes, right. And then basically, what would the goals be? You know, just tried to lay everything out.
Okay.
And, where do we want to go with this? What do we want to see happen? What are we worried that could happen?
Right.
You know, gets thrown in there. And, you know, ultimately, you know, how much time does this save every person each day, and try to do just a cost, you know, time analysis.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk more about that. Maybe it'll fit with my model. Maybe this is a little bit of a different approach. But I think the point is you can't do this and manage it if you don't understand what you're doing. You can't have governance. You can't have security. You can't have performance unless you actually know what's happening, right? So I thought about this, and I looked at 2 dimensions. How much data integration do we do, and how much process integration do we do? Now, the example I just gave you, ChatGPT, pretty low on data integration, right? I've trained it on content that I already have. I've uploaded content, but I'm not like pulling databases. I'm not looking at real-time activity or anything like that. And there's no business process. It's me and the computer, right? So from a business process perspective and a data integration, this is low and low. Then we talk about RAG, right? You guys have heard of RAG, Retrieval Augmented Gen AI. And that has high data integration, right? So now I'm saying, get this piece of data from this database, which happens to be over here in our manufacturing facility in China. Go get this other data from our inventory system in Chicago, right? Now I'm pulling data across my internet, feeding it in to the model, training the model, or acting on the model based on that data. So now I've got some high levels of data integration, but I'm not then saying, and update the inventory system with purchase orders based on what you can figure out is the projected inventory availability from our suppliers. Now, if I did that, I'd be moving into the space of agentic AI, right? So now I'm integrating with my business process. Or let me know anytime inventory levels flip down below this across 7 different systems, and you predict it's gonna go down, right? So make it more predictive than a typical inventory alert. Agentic AI. Now, anyone know what they call things with data integration that are large and process integration that's large in the Gen AI world? Anyone? I don't think they do. People haven't even gotten here yet, guys. I mean, most adoption is sitting somewhere between chat and RAG, right? That's where most of the state of adoption is today. And then I'll talk about agentic adoption, which is mostly being driven by embeddedness in SaaS applications with copilots, right? That's the primary form that we see, kind of like the Chat 1.0 in the agentic area. Now, the only thing I could find is they call it agentic RAG, which I just thought was a terrible name. So I call it expansive AI. And I think the reason I like that name, expansive AI, and I'm more than happy to donate that to the industry, is it's expansive in the sense that it's unlimited, really. And this is where it gets both exciting and scary. So if you think about the levels of productivity that you can generate at each of these stages of adoption, right? At the low stage, you're talking about, as I like to say, or borrowing from Steve Jobs, insane productivity. It is insane that I wrote 5 blogs in an hour that would take me a week to write, but in reality, I would never written. To me, that's insane. Another example of insane, I took some creative work that one of our agencies did. I said, give me a brand personality assessment and show me the competitive assessment against my competitors and an action plan for rolling out this brand personality. After I got the document, in like 30 seconds, I said, how much would it have cost me to have an agency do this work? And ChatGPT said, I think you just saved $300,000 to $500,000. It's insane, right? Now, in reality, I would have never spent that much, but I might have spent 80 or 90, and now I'm implementing that with some, again, revisions. So insane productivity. Now when you start putting in your business data and training your models with your specific business information, gathering those real time, understanding the flow of your business, you start to have what I say bespoke insight, right? Insight that you're not going to get from a standard analytics package because I can see things with the LLM, trained with the RAG data, integrated real time with RAG, that I simply can't get. Now this is something we're using to do threat detection, right, within our product, as we're trying to get some bespoke insight. We just announced a product called AI Observe that uses over 400 AI models, both LLM, machine learning, supervised and unsupervised, to give us bespoke insight into the security risk at our customers. That's that stage. Agentic, I think, is really about efficiency and savings, right? It's like I can do things faster, I do them more efficiently, boom, 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 the agent goes, it runs, it does the work, I don't need people anymore. There was another article I read this morning that I wanted to put into the presentation, which said the new IT manager is the HR manager of agents. That's what it said the future of your job is if you're an IT manager. It's a little aggressive, but this is where we're going, guys. And then lastly, on expansive, I think this is just about invention. And I use the word invention because who knows? Who knows what it's really about? So this is the exciting part, right? There is invention, innovation, efficiency, productivity, and insight. And I think organizations and companies that don't do this will miss out on a lot, right? At the same time, well, let's talk a little bit more. I talked about agentic. I just wanted to bring this up because it's just all over the place, right? And I'm sure people seen some of these co-pilots being deployed in their organizations. Anyone? Just the beginning? So, there's a lot of hype. I live in Silicon Valley. I grew up in Ohio, so what a difference, right? I live in the world of hype, and here we're in the world of reality. In the world of hype, this is all you hear about. Agent, 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 co-pilot, co-pilot, co-pilot. Then we do a show of hands, and I've only got a few hands up, right? But it's coming. I'm sure it's coming, okay? And you can see all the places that have embedded GenAI co-pilots into the SaaS applications today. Our organization ourselves, we're just starting to use these. I guess the quote was in my presentation, not in an article I read. This is the CEO of NVIDIA. Not that he has a pony in the race. He says, in a lot of ways, the IT department of every company is going to be the HR department of AI agents. Interesting, right? I mean, stuff makes your head hurt a little bit, makes you think, keeps you up at night, gets you excited, right? All of the above. It's the two sides, the excitement and the fear, right? Can't get away from it. Okay, so when you think about value, time and effort, it's pretty easy to fire up a ChatGPT and get some value out of it, right? It's a little harder to do RAG, though it's getting easier with some of the development kits and tools out there. It's a little confusing to do agentic because it's not very well defined and nobody knows what the future lies in the top right when I'm integrating both process and data. And the reason I like this framework, it's just simple, right? Are you integrating process? Are you integrating data into your AI implementation? But I think the value curve is going to look like this, right? We're going to really see it explode. And it's not linear, and the adoption isn't linear. I might do agent here for this application. I might do expansive for another application. I might have a lot of productivity gains by implementing chat tools. Make sense? How's this match to your model? I'm curious, not to put you on the spot.
My model is still in process.
Okay, you're welcome to use this as part of it. All right. Okay, here's the problem. So I've got this explosive value, right? Remember my chasm from the beginning, the expanse? On one side, I've got value potential. On the other side, I've got value realization. In the middle, I have networking and security risk. So let's look at the middle now. And I would argue our old point-to-point networks, they're simply not ready for this, right? The networks that we deployed for the last decade are not really ready, right? They're not set up for this level of traffic, this level of integration, this level of RAG and agentic work. And that's going to put stretches on us from both a networking and security perspective. So if you think about the network demand, at the low chat level, it's chatty. That's why it's called chat, right? So it's chatty, so you have a lot of information going back and forth. But as soon as you move to RAG and you're training and updating the models, even up to real time, you're now looking at a lot of data. And I've heard anecdotes from some of our prospects and customers about shipping training data for their LLM models by FedEx, literally. And in fact, one of our large data center partners, Equinix, told us that they had actually fired up a service to provide disk transport for some of their customers because the network wasn't ready for the volume of training data that they were trying to run over it. Crazy, right? And then when you start distributing workloads, well, we know what happens to the network demand when the workload gets distributed, right? It goes skyrockets. And then lastly, when you're multi-threading everything, data and process, you're just turning this into a traffic hog. Good for networking companies, not so good maybe for us as customers. And so it kind of starts slow, right? You're not going to notice a lot of traffic increase with a chat application, but as soon as you start doing the RAG and the agentic stuff, I think you're going to see this go up dramatically. Okay, now we get to the kind of scary stuff. So, first of all, I've got unauthorized access problems, right? At the end of the day, what are 3 things we need to protect against in any application type? Access control, data and knowledge leakage, and application-specific threats. This is no different, right? You've got to have good access control. You've got to worry about data leakage, but not just data leakage, but knowledge leakage now. And then specific threats like prompt injection and data poisoning and stuff like that. So we'll talk about that. But at the beginning, it just looks like an access control problem. Do I have shadow AI going on, right? Then, as soon as I start integrating my data, I'm really going to start worrying about data leakage, but not just data leakage, but knowledge leakage. So it's one thing to lose data. It's not a good thing. But if someone can then tap into that model and get knowledge about your business, think about the accelerated risk from that. Okay? Then, once I'm in the business flow, business disruption is a real threat. And then lastly, I'm not even sure what to put there, at least IP threat, but all of the above, right? Now I've got threats about access control. I've got knowledge and leakage threat. I've got business disruption threat. I've got business sabotage threats if I poison a model and I start giving you the wrong conclusions, right? So this is stuff going to get pretty serious. And I think what we're going to see is it's going to kind of step function and then go through the roof, right? So that's the bad news. The good news is we're early. Remember when we talked about adoption? And that's why I think, I have a lot of optimism because we're talking about this now and we're still in the bottom left pretty much, right? And we just need to get ahead of it. Okay, so that's the general model. I'll pause if anyone has any quick questions here. I've got time for any questions, or I can go and dive a little deeper. Yeah, a couple questions here. There we go. Thanks, Alex.
Hello. I work at the University of Cincinnati, and I work with a lot of medical researchers.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this and trying to figure out if we actually add any type of sensitive research, like where is going to lay on protecting that information, especially with AI, and actually exposing that to our competitors, which would be other researchers within the other universities before they spoof us. And whatnot. So this whole thing, I know a lot of people have actually created a framework, but they don't actually put any of the sensitive data in before, to get good outputs. So.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because, for example, I have a lot of trust, probably misplaced, in OpenAI, right? And so I've trained a GPT with a lot of, I won't say proprietary content because it's really not very proprietary, which is the reason I've been comfortable doing it, but it's a lot of private content. And I wouldn't be thrilled if my competitors were sitting on that ChatGPT, but I'm told, and I trust, right, that since it's a private GPT, I have the access control, and the learning that the GPT does is isolated to using my GPT, not the generic OpenAI GPT. Now, if I were doing medical research, I probably wouldn't be that trusting. So I think you have to think about where is that LLM living, what data is it being trained with, and what access control do I have around it, and do I have the right levels of access control? Yeah.
Yeah, debate another question. I thought we had one over here too. We'll come back to
Okay.
that.
Hi, I'm a student at the University of Cincinnati.
Okay. Is he teaching you well?
No, we're taking a class together.
Oh, okay.
But my question, I guess I actually just took a class about all of this. And my question would be, when we're training a data using RAG, especially, a human is essentially the one that's training this LLM.
Yep.
So how would we be cautious of human bias entering our LLM?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person because I'm a marketer, not a researcher, and I'm all about bias. No, I think you have to understand that, I think what's happened in the world, this is my meta comment on this, right, is we've moved from a world where having the right answer is not really what's unique, it's asking the right question. And so to the extent that you're a researcher and you're putting data in that's going to allow you to ask the right questions, I guess your bias is going to kind of travel with you. And this is where I'm sure there's academic research around training bias and all that, and it's a little above me. But that would be my first thought.
Did we have another question over here?
Was there another question?
That
Okay.
was all I had raised.
All right, let's just dive a little bit deeper. I've covered some of this, but adoption challenges exist in this rush, and there's really about how do I manage investment? How do I, with this focus on productivity and automation, that creates risk. I'm going to have integration challenges, and then I'm going to have skill and gap challenges, right? This is a story we've seen with SaaS adoption, with cloud adoption. It really doesn't change, right? It's just a new actor, okay? But specific to AI deployments, here are some of the things that I would think are going to challenge us. We talked about performance and experience, data transfer and latency, distributed processes running. I've got this LLM running in this cloud. I've got this LLM running in my data center. They want to talk to each other. How do I facilitate that in an efficient and effective and secure way? I've got to manage traffic. I've got to manage models. Do they get out of sync? Because one model is sitting in China, another one's sitting in Bangalore, a third one's sitting in Santa Clara or Cincinnati. And I'm asking the same question, and I'm making business decisions across my organization, I better ensure that those models are synchronized. Okay, we'll talk more about cybersecurity challenges. There are adversarial attacks that we need to worry about. There's model theft, there's misuse, weaponization, supply chain risk, real-time model vulnerabilities, you name it. Anyone seen the OWASP list for LLM threats? That's a good reference point for everyone. OWASP is an organization that started with web security threats. They've now published a top 10 threat list for LLMs. So I'd reference everyone to that for some specifics there. And then you have both data management challenges and compliance challenges. So this is not a small set of challenges. At the end of the day, I think you need three things: security, privacy, and trust, right? And this is, again, not a new story, right? I could have used this story for the cloud, 7 or 8 years ago. Well, what's your security? How are you managing unauthorized access and activities? How are you ensuring privacy of your data and data usage policies? And how do you have trust in the system? And then all these things need to work interconnectedly. So for those of you in the cybersecurity teams, work isn't stopping, right? So welcome aboard. These are some recent headlines. Yeah, it's going to keep going. So like I said, 3 headlines that I saw on the way here that I wanted to put into the presentation. And these are the older ones. They might be 3 weeks old. Okay, I was very happy and upset that my line got stolen this morning. I did not put this in after Tia presented. My son was excited that it was in there. With great power comes great responsibility. Look, shadow AI is real, right? People are using this in your organization, whether you know it or not. So it behooves you to get control. You have data, because of the data privacy and confidentiality risks, talked about bias and ethical risks, as well as attacks, data and knowledge leakage. So AI is bringing a whole new set of challenges to us. And if you think about the life cycle of an AI workload, it goes through data collection, model training, model evaluation, modeling, generating content, deployment, retraining, reoptimization, and it just keeps going, right? So there's activity that's going to be happening all along. And these AI workloads are data, compute, and network intensive, right? That's another takeaway I'd like you to have, right? These AI workloads are very chatty, easy to remember, ChatGPT. They're very chatty workloads. The protocols are chatty, and they tax the network, and they create security risk. So when you think about this, we've been using this diagram at Ariaka for a long time, which is essentially to say users can come from anywhere. Your data center, your branches, they can be remote users, your campus. They could be in browsers, they could be using co-pilots, they could be using their phone. And then they're accessing these models, which could live in your data centers, could live at ChatGPT, at OpenAI, could live at Anthropic, could live in your private cloud, could live in your AWS instance. They can be anywhere. And now you see the types of attacks and the prompt response. You've got prompt injection, data disclosure, right? Data leakage, malicious injection of output handling, over-reliance, data theft, data poisoning, right? Again, a lot of things to consider. So, what's the mantra in the cloud world, right? Any user, any application, anywhere, anytime. Same in GenAI, right? The more I use it, the more I'm going to want it. So, if you think about 3 things that you can do to improve your GenAI implementation in the organization, it really comes down to performance, observability, and security, right? And this, I think the slides are available. Is that right, Alex? Yes. Slides are available for people?
Yes, they'll be available.
Yeah. So without going through all of these are some of the functions, for example, that a good network needs to perform to drive performance of your AI application. You need optimization, you need low latency, scalability, quality of service assurance, reliability, redundancy. As you move from chat to RAG to agentic to expansive, all these things are going to become more important in order to keep the business running. AI will become embedded in your business, and if the network fails it, it will have implications on your business. At the same time, you need to secure it. You need encryption. You need a zero trust architecture so that the traffic is safe traversing the network. You need specific access controls and threat detection systems, right? Again, it's really nothing new, is it? Does it feel much different than any other traffic type? No, the biggest difference is in that threat detection and response because the threats are different. So I'm not going to spend time doing a commercial for Ariaka. We have products that do all these things. So if you'd like to know more about how we're handling this, come visit us. That's not my goal here today. My main goal is to talk about adoption and the risk and the challenges that it creates. Okay, this is how we do it. Again, happy to talk to you. But again, if you think about this again, any user to any application anywhere should get performance, security, and agility and availability, right? And so networks need to transform. Networks need to be modern. Security needs to be implemented. So I'll leave you, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions. Told you I'd be about 5 minutes short, so perfect timing. 3 questions, I think. So I want to give a little guidance of how do you move from this presentation, which hopefully both excited and put a little concern in you, right? Is what do you think about? So do you know where your adoption is today? I guarantee you shadow AI is happening in your organization. Probably not much of a statement. Get ahead and at least, if nothing else, put some process in place. Ask your users, right? Do an inventory. Basic hygiene. Know what's out there. And then there's tech that allows you to do this too. Is your network ready? If you're running a point-to-point MPLS network across 20 locations, I would argue you're probably not ready. If you're on an old appliance-based SD-WAN, I worry that you're not ready, right? If you only have 2 locations and they're connected point-to-point, okay. But if you're operating regionally or globally and you haven't modernized your network or you've been waiting for a reason to invest in making your network higher performance, more agile, more reliable, this is the time. And again, do it with me, do it with someone else. But to be ready, you need to do that. And that will make the network an enabler, not a barrier to value realization, right? And we want the network to be an enabler, not a barrier. And then, are you ready to manage the risk? So you need to understand and plan for these risks, and these new risks will require new approaches. Okay. So, some resources for you. Our head of AI research has written a book called Combating Cyber Attacks, Targeting the AI Ecosystem. As high level as my presentation's been, his is going to be way down there and really good. Okay, so you can get that book. It's available pretty much everywhere. There's AI Center of Excellence at Microsoft is a great resource. The OS Top 10 I mentioned. There's a Coursera course by Andrew Ng called AI from Everyone. Not very technical, very good. And then we blog on network-specific performance and security threats in our Ariaka's Threat Research Lab blog. So those are some resources for you. That's what I have. Any questions? No? Okay, well, I hope in closing that we can get you from GenAI adoption to value realization by closing those network security performance and network performance and security threats. And I wish you luck on your journey. Anyone wants to chat, welcome to join us right outside there. Thank you.